So I'm a little rusty on the framing and the lighting here.
Yes, mic check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Mic check. Hello. Mic check.
Any update on Mr. Biden? Got it. Okay. Let me know if we get into the 4 and he comes to talk, let me know if I need to toss to Nora or toss to podium. Okay. Will you have me toss no matter what, or are you going to have whichever anchor is talking toss? Will you have me toss for?
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to your 4 to 5. I'm Eric Chilton, along with Maddie Gardner, Tahisha Moyes, and Chad Silber.
Yes, more of us working from home this afternoon, but of course still connected with you on all of our live streams that you can find on social media.
Yes, and you use that hashtag 4 to 5 to stay connected with us.
As you know, it has been a wild 24 hours, and we are just getting started, so let's get right to it today. Elections workers across several states, including ours, are still counting votes, and it could be days before we know who will win the presidency. Just this afternoon, the Associated Press called Wisconsin for Democratic nominee Joe Biden. We are expecting to hear from him at any moment, so stay tuned. The AP put Arizona in his column early this morning. The Trump campaign says it will file for an immediate recount in Wisconsin. Biden also leads in Michigan and Nevada. Those states would be enough to push him above the 270 electoral votes needed to win. The Trump campaign also said it's filing a lawsuit in Michigan and Pennsylvania to stop the count there because the campaign says it's been denied access to numerous counting locations.
Well, we know the results of at least one of our state's biggest races. Governor Roy Cooper won his bid for re-election. He got about 51% of the vote, while his Republican challenger, the current Lieutenant Governor Dan Forest, received 47%.
A Greensboro native made history last night during the election. Voters elected Mark Robinson as the state lieutenant governor. Now he will become North Carolina's first African-American to be voted into that office. WFMY News 2's Itanese McMiller spoke with Robinson about how he plans to represent both his hometown and the state.
Robinson, born and raised in Greensboro, says he plans to use his experiences here to represent those across the state from the top and bottom because he says he's endured both. Mark Robinson made history on election night, becoming the first black lieutenant governor in North Carolina. Robinson defeated Democrat Yvonne Holley, who also could have made history as North Carolina's first black lieutenant governor. Robinson had a lead of more than 3 points with roughly 75% of ballots counted, according to the state's Board of Elections website. Robinson says his win is a testament to the greatness of this nation and state.
I've been everything. I've been the dishwasher, so to speak, and I've been the CEO. I've been where the buck stops. So I understand the struggles of people in this state. I plan on including Greensboro as part of our story, and it's going to be something near and dear to us. And try to work hard with the people, the leadership of the people of Greensboro to try to make this city better as well.
Robinson is a political newcomer. He says he wants to focus on education, benefits for veterans, and funding for law enforcement.
And law enforcement is something that has got to be done. We have seen the dreadful effects of elected officials who refuse to allow police officers to maintain law and order on our streets.
The changes Robinson wants to make in those 3 areas at 5:30.
Well, you know, despite Tom Tillis calling victory in the race for U.S. Senate last night, there is no decided winner just yet. As of right now, Tillis leads his challenger, Cal Cunningham, by about 100,000 votes. Now, the reason why a winner has not been declared yet is because of the large amount of absentee ballots that still haven't been counted. Cunningham's campaign manager released a statement saying, quote, "The State Board of Elections is continuing to count ballots, and we plan to allow that process to be carried out so every voter can have their voice heard."
Yes, certainly the word of the day is patience. We are still waiting on a number of key races in our state to be called, including the presidential race. Who will get North Carolina's 15 electoral college votes is still up in the air. And the main reason for that is because tens of thousands of absentee ballots have not been counted in our state. And the race between President Donald Trump and Democratic nominee Joe Biden is so close that those ballots could make a difference. Political science professor at High Point University, Brandon Lenore, says it's a numbers game.
We sit down and we look at the number of votes that are outstanding compared to the number of votes that separate the two candidates. And right now, the number of votes that are outstanding is greater than the number of votes that separate the two candidates. So we have to wait until all of the votes are counted before we know who won the state of North Carolina.
So we are waiting on enough absentee ballots to be counted before we decide races like the ones for president and Senate. But where are those ballots? Tom Little from UNCG's political science department says that's actually unclear.
There could be three categories. One would be, we know 110 have been requested but not returned. And we know that 950,000 have been returned and counted. But maybe there are some who have been returned but not counted. Maybe that's the 100,000, but I don't know that.
All right, the question then becomes, with all of that uncertainty, how long are we going to have to wait? The Supreme Court ruled that those absentee votes can be counted up to November 12th as long as they are postmarked on or before Election Day. Lenore doesn't think we'll have to wait that long, but it is going to take some time.
Part of the reason for that 9-day additional time is we have to remember that North Carolina has a very large military population, and quite a few of those personnel are deployed overseas. So if they got an absentee ballot to vote in the North Carolina election and they mailed it on or just before Election Day, it could take as many as 7 business days before their ballot makes it back to North Carolina. So that's part of the justification for that extended period of time.
So really unsatisfying, but the short answer here is we don't have all of the answers to these questions because there are simply too many ballots out there, and there are more absentee ballots in this election in our state than ever before. We really don't have a precedent when it comes to mail-in voting because more people requested those ballots since we're in a pandemic.
Among the ballot items with a clear winner last night, Guilford County, hold on, we're scrolling past that a little bit too fast there for me. Guilford County voters approved a $300 million school bond, but the quarter-cent sales tax has failed. Both were needed in order to improve funding within Guilford County schools. Now, the school bond money will be used to jumpstart a $2 billion master plan to renovate and repair schools. The sales tax increase would have been used to pay for the school bond. Since it failed, it's likely property taxes will go up to cover that bond.
Let's get to your 4 to 5 roundup and take a look at some other ballot measures across the country. New Jersey is now legalizing recreational marijuana. It passed with more than 2/3 of people voting in favor of the amendment. Now, New Jersey is now the first state in the Mid-Atlantic region to legalize recreational marijuana and the 12th state to do so in the U.S. Arizona voters passed a similar measure on Tuesday night. That one was called Proposition 207. Over on the West Coast, voters made Oregon the first state to decriminalize the possession of small amounts of street drugs such as cocaine, heroin, and meth. The Oregon Drug Initiative will allow people arrested with small amounts of hard drugs to avoid going to trial and possible jail time by paying a $100 fine and attending an addiction recovery program. The treatment centers will be funded by revenues from legalized marijuana. Oregon voters also approved a measure making the state the first to legalize the therapeutic use of psychedelic mushrooms. And in Mississippi, voters have decided to replace the Confederate-themed state flag with one that promotes a state symbol, the magnolia blossom. The flower design got 68% of the vote, replacing the 126-year-old banner that incorporated a version of the Confederate flag. The words "In God We Trust" will also be featured on the flag.
Well, I'll tell you what, weather-wise across the Triad, it's just an absolutely gorgeous day. Put all the election stress aside. Get outside and spend some time outdoors. You have that beautiful Carolina blue sky, not a cloud in the sky today, and it's really quite comfortable all across the area. Temperatures in the mid-60s right now across the Triad, but zooming out, I'll tell you what, it's just a really mild day all across the United States. There is good weather everywhere you look. Just take your pick, and really, it's all dry weather, other than a few clouds streaming across the Midwest. I'll tell you what, we have gorgeous weather all across the country. Tonight, under clear skies, we'll drop down to around 42 for the overnight low, and we'll get up to 68 tomorrow with a lot of sunshine.
All right, sorry to interrupt, Christian, but we've just received breaking news. Former Vice President Joe Biden is approaching a podium to make a statement. Let's listen.
Say later, and either tonight or tomorrow. But let me begin by thanking the press for being here and thanking everyone else. My fellow Americans, yesterday once again proved that democracy is the heartbeat of this nation, just as it has been the heartbeat of this nation for 2 centuries. And even in the face of a pandemic, more Americans voted this election than ever before in American history. Over 150 million people cast their votes. I think that's just extraordinary. And if we had any doubts, we shouldn't have any longer about a government of, by, and for the people. It's very much alive in America. Here, the people rule. Power can't be taken or asserted. It flows from the people, and it's their will that determines who will be the President of the United States, and their will alone. And now, after a long night of counting, it's clear that we're winning enough states to reach 270 electoral votes needed to win the presidency. I'm not here to declare that we've won, but I am here to report that when the count is finished, we believe we will be the winners. With all the votes counted, we have won Wisconsin by 20,000 votes, virtually the same margin that President Trump won that state 4 years ago. In Michigan, we lead by over 35,000 votes, and it's growing. A substantially bigger margin than President Trump won Michigan in 2016. Michigan will complete its vote soon, maybe as early as today. And I feel very good about Pennsylvania. Virtually all the remaining ballots to be counted were cast by mail. And we've been winning 78% of the votes by mail in Pennsylvania. We've flipped Arizona and the 2nd District of Nebraska. Of special significance to me is that we've won with the majority of the American people. And every indication is that the majority will grow. We have a popular vote lead of nearly 3 million votes, and every indication is that will grow as well. Indeed, Senator Harris and I are on track to win more votes than any ticket in the history of this country that ever won the presidency and vice presidency. Over 70 million votes. I'm very proud of our campaign. Only 3 presidential campaigns in the past have defeated an incumbent president. When it's finished, God willing, we'll be the 4th. This is a major achievement. This is a major achievement. And it's been a long and difficult campaign, but it's been a more difficult time for our country, a hard time. We've had hard campaigns before. We've faced hard times before. So once this election is finalized and behind us, it'll be time for us to do what we've always done as Americans, to put the harsh rhetoric of the campaign behind us, to lower the temperature, to see each other again, to listen to one another, to hear each other again, and respect and care for one another, to unite, to heal, to come together as a nation. I know this won't be easy. I'm not naive. Neither of us are. I know how deep and hard the opposing views are in our country on so many things. But I also know this as well. To make progress, we have to stop treating our opponents as enemies. We are not enemies. What brings us together as Americans is so much stronger than anything that can tear us apart. So let me be clear. We are campaigning as Democrats, but I will govern as an American president. The presidency itself is not a partisan institution. It's the one office in this nation that represents everyone. And it demands a duty of care for all Americans. And that is precisely what I will do. I will work as hard for those who didn't vote for me as I will for those who did vote for me. Now, every vote must be counted. No one's going to take our democracy away from us. Not now, not ever. America's come too far. America's fought too many battles. America's endured too much to ever let that happen. We, the people, will not be silenced. We, the people, will not be bullied. We, the people, will not surrender. My friends, I'm confident we'll emerge victorious. But this will not be my victory alone or our victory alone. It'll be a victory for the American people, for our democracy, for America. And there will be no blue states and red states when we win, just the United States of America. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you.
You have just been listening to Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden speaking to America amidst what has become a very interesting past 24 hours. He said it's clear they are winning enough states to reach 270 electoral votes. He did point out that he is not declaring himself the winner, but believes he will eventually be the winner. He also says he is on track to win more votes than any other ticket in the history of the United States, and that every vote must be counted. And we have seen across several states, including ours, that is still happening at this hour. We're going to regroup, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to the 4 to 5. It's 4:19 right now. You know, nobody really knows how long the election could drag out. We've been talking about this during the show today, and we will continue probably. That'll be a big topic for a while. But for people that are watching their investments, that uncertainty can be a little troubling. I asked UNCG economics professor Martin Anderson to try to shed some light on what the markets do with this particular situation. Pretty interesting answer here. Take a listen.
So Martin, this is so interesting to me because, you know, you think that, well, if one candidate wins or the other, it might affect the markets, but historically that really isn't the case. But this is different. What does a prolonged election like this mean for the markets?
A prolonged election is going to create uncertainty, and markets in general just abhor uncertainty. So as we have this delay, what's basically going to happen is that investors just aren't going to know what's the right call to do. And so what I would expect to see is people just not doing very much, which I suspect would actually be a weight on the market. So I would expect to see, you know, not a ton of volume over the next few days, probably not a ton happening until we get clarity on which candidate's going to win the presidential election. At which point I would expect to see some fairly rapid adjustments to the fact that we now know who the winner is.
So it's so funny to me, it goes back to the idea that markets react on emotion sometimes. Isn't that hard for the average person to swallow, that our investments are steered by emotion?
A little bit. I mean, there's a whole field in economics and finance called behavioral finance, as well as behavioral economics, that sort of tries to get at this idea of the role of emotion in these economic and financial decisions. I think if you think about, for example, your relationship with your house, it is for many people, it's one of their largest investments they make, and it's heavily emotional. Yeah, I don't know many people who say, well, you know, I bought my house because it was a good investment. Now it looks like a great time to sell it, so I'm going to sell it and move someplace else. You know, they're sort of saying, well, I like my house. I don't want to move.
What should people do right now? You know, financial advisors always say, don't overreact.
I would say, find a good corner, read a good book, and don't do anything.
Yeah, don't overreact is always a financial advisor's advice. Thank you, Martin. We appreciate your time today.
It is what they always say. It seems like we should just go ahead and stick that in as the answer always. But he did say that it's just amazing to me that investments do react on opinion and feeling and emotion. That's kind of what our retirement funds and what our investments will do. It's just the nature of the beast. But he said that at least this will be a short dip. If there is a dip at all, it shouldn't last too long, so just wait it out.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but when I first got my first big girl job, had to sign up for the 401k, I had no idea what I was doing. I had to ask my dad to help me out. And when it comes to moments like this, I go to him again because he has the answers.
I think very sage advice just to read a good book and wait it out, because we don't know how long we're going to be waiting on these final presidential results. I mean, we just talked about in North Carolina, it could be 8 more days until we have all those ballots back.
I might have to find a good book. We'll be right back. President Trump has already vowed to send lawyers to the swing states, setting up the possibility of contesting election results. And where history is concerned, contested presidential elections are incredibly rare, and contesting a national election is easier said than done. So let's connect the dots.
Here's the thing. The presidential election isn't really a national election. It's 51 separate elections, one in each state and Washington, D.C. That means a losing candidate would have to contest the results in one or more states where he or she thinks there was a problem. But they'd have to wait until a state certifies a winner before filing a lawsuit. State courts handle most of these challenges. They only go to the Supreme Court if it seems like there are constitutional issues to deal with. That's happened twice. The most recent was the 2000 presidential race between George W. Bush and Al Gore. Remember hanging chads? As for whether a contested election could affect a peaceful transition of power, the Constitution requires the president and vice president into their terms of office January 20th. No president in history has ever refused to hand over power to the next.
So interesting here. I lived in Florida in the election where they had the hanging chads, and I couldn't find it in time. Somewhere back in one of these cabinets, I actually have some of those ballots where they had the issues with that. It was incredibly drawn out and long lasting and that type of thing. I really hope this one doesn't go that long, but I just have a gut feeling like this will be a topic for not just a week or so.
Yeah, Eric, I feel the same way. I've just been thinking to myself, what else is going to happen with this election? It's been so unprecedented. I know Maddie loves that word, but it's just really fitting in this. So, I mean, if a contested election has to happen, I feel like just prepare yourself now, right?
Right, and already last night we heard President Donald Trump say that the Supreme Court could possibly hear a case about this election, so I don't think that this is going to be a cut and dry situation, sadly. Eric, I would like to see those hanging chads. I'm a little bit of a history nerd here, so find those and send me a picture.
Yeah, and Eric, so you might have worked during the election and during the hanging chads, but I was living in Florida after the election, and my name is Chad. So there were a lot of hanging chad, impregnated chad jokes.
Nicknames.
Yes, so we have gotten over it. I just hope it doesn't come back around. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to your 4 to 5. Okay, so we are still waiting on those final tallies for several key races in our state, but we know that the time to vote has come and gone. And no matter who you voted for, your vote really did make a huge impact in this year's election. So I asked you on my Facebook page, why did you vote this year? We have some great responses. Let's get right to them. We'll start with Janet here, who says, I voted because I have voted since I was 18 years old. I always considered it an honor to be able to vote for the person that I thought was best for my country and state. James Edward Brown had some fun with this one. He said his wife wanted to. Misty Whitaker Brown said, I voted because it's my right and I feel it's my duty. I also voted because I want to be an example to my kids and I want them to see its importance. Shane Graves says the USA is the greatest country in the world. Many people don't have the ability to vote. And Greg Klein said, I need to vote to have a voice. Without voting, I have no right to complain about the results. Greg, I just have to give you a round of applause for that comment. That's great. And he's exactly right. If you don't vote, you can't complain. And you have 4 years when it comes to some of these offices. So you really should vote. I like that.
Yeah, Maddie, but people are going to complain one way or another. And, sometimes I find myself in there. But I vote because I know what's at stake. If I don't, my parents gave a lot to come to this country, being raised in Haiti. The government over there is not the best. So I know how important it is for me and my family to be able to vote.
Yeah, and I mean, that does sum it up, though. We vote because we can. And the whole line that we've heard for years that it's a privilege, not just a right, is so true. I stand by that.
And I love that it's the one day out of every 4 years where we all have the same equal chance to make an impact on our federal government. And it's just so magical to me. So we'll be right back.
Ice cold milk and an Oreo cookie, they forever go together.
Hi there, Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida.
Yes, let's get to your 4 to 5 roundup. We are talking ballots.
From now on, I want Chad's mic check to only be the states in alphabetical order that have yet to post whether they've gone.
That would be so difficult. Well, there's only a few left at this point. But Chad, yes, you could easily just call out all of the states.
Sure. I want Chad to say them all in reverse alphabetical order, starting with Z.
Welcome back to your 4 to 5. I'm Eric Chilton, alongside Maddie Gardner, Tahisha Moyes, and Chad Silver.
Yes, we are so glad you are joining us on this Wednesday, the day after Election Day across the United States, and we are connecting with you online, so join our conversation there.
Yes, and use that hashtag 4to5 so that we can see your comments as we go throughout the show.
And I'm so glad you guys allowed me to be here today. We got a lot to talk about. As you know, Election Day has turned into election days, and we knew it was a good possibility. The presidential race is the big one here. They are still counting votes in several states, including ours today. Just this afternoon, the Associated Press called Wisconsin for Democratic nominee Joe Biden. The AP put Arizona in his column early this morning. The Trump campaign says it will file for an immediate recount in Wisconsin. Biden also leads in Michigan and Nevada. Those states would be enough to push him above the 270 electoral votes needed to win. The Trump campaign also said it's filing a lawsuit in Michigan and Pennsylvania to stop the count there because the campaign says it's been denied access to numerous counting locations.
So, of course, we are still waiting on several states, including North Carolina, to declare a presidential winner. But we've been getting a lot of questions about why experts can call certain states and why others cannot. So let's verify some of that information for you.
So let's verify what determines when a race can be called. Here are sources, the three big organizations that call elections: the Associated Press, Decision Desk HQ, and Edison Research. They all use a combination of things like historical election results, demographics, exit polls, nationwide surveys, voter registrations, voter files, and votes as they're reported to localities to make their projections. Here's what Drew McCoy, the president of Decision Desk HQ, told our researchers.
But what you're really looking for when you're calling an election is you're really calling a loser more than a winner.
Larry ROSIN, the co-founder and president of Edison Research, agreed, saying they'll call a race when they determine that there is less than a 0.5% chance that the other candidate will catch up. The Associated Press told our team that they'll call a race when, quote, we conclude that the trailing candidate will not catch the leader. And just a reminder, these are projections. Many states will be counting ballots for days to come.
We are following breaking news in the race for president. Ben Briscoe, what have you learned?
Okay, so going into the 4 o'clock hour, Joe Biden needed 22 electoral college votes to become your next president. Here's what we know right now. The Associated Press is just about to call Michigan. They are on the verge of it. They haven't quite done it yet. CBS News did call Michigan, though, for Joe Biden, which gives him 16 electoral college votes, puts him right on the edge there. What he needs now in order to become your next president is Nevada. If he picked that up pretty easily where he's already in the lead, then he would reach that 270 mark. Here is the deal, though. Nevada is telling us they're not going to release any more results until tomorrow morning at the earliest. That is why right now all eyes are also on Pennsylvania, where they are counting ballots at this very moment. North Carolina, we're probably not going to know more until November 12th. So right now we're kind of on the back burner. And Georgia, where they are also counting ballots furiously right now. So we're going to keep monitoring the map and we'll let you know if anything else changes.
All right, Ben, thank you. Let's get to your 4 to 5 roundup right now. A federal judge has ordered the U.S. Postal Service to sweep mail processing facilities to ensure that no ballots were held up for delivery. This order comes after the post office revealed that more than 300,000 ballots were received but unable to be traced to their destination. The order affects facilities in 6 key battleground states, including Michigan, Georgia, Texas, Arizona, and Florida. Many lawsuits against the service claim the slower responses before the election was a form of voter suppression. Well, here's a first for our country. Democrat Sarah McBride will be the first openly transgender senator when she is sworn in January. McBride defeated Republican Steve Washington on Tuesday to win the seat that became open following the retirement of the longest-serving legislator in Delaware history. She joined several other transgender legislators around the country, but will be the first transgender state senator.
I'll tell you what, folks, put all that election stress aside and get outside. You've got a gorgeous day to do it, and really all across the entire eastern half of the United States. We're in the 60s now, 70s in many places. Tonight, under clear skies, we'll get down into the low 40s. I don't think we'll reach that 30-degree mark like we did the last few nights. Tomorrow, another nice day with a lot of sunshine and temperatures in the upper 60s. Now, of course, all eyes are on what's left of Tropical Storm Eta, moving through Central America right now, but it is likely that it will re-emerge into the Caribbean Sea. Then make another landfall along Cuba, and then zigzag up towards Florida. And that's what we'll need to watch it. Still no guarantees on what it does, and we're still about a week out, but it could bring us some rain if it holds on for several days. The nice weather continues. We'll be near 70 for the rest of the week and heading into the weekend.
All right, folks, I want you to take a look up here. Chad, you look up here.
Yeah.
When you see unknown number on your phone screen, what do you think?
Publishers Clearinghouse. I won the lottery. Yeah.
Maybe so.
Not that.
Right. You don't answer it, right? Because you know it's a robocall of some sort. Well, yesterday on Election Day, there was a whole bunch of robocalls going around.
Robocalls in which they were being told to stay home and stay safe. And obviously, that kind of voter suppression is absolutely awful. It's illegal, and we're going to do everything we can to find out the culprits who tried to interfere with the elections. We know that calls were made into North Carolina and frankly across the country.
All right, so if you got one of these robocalls that was telling you to stay home and stay safe on Election Day, it was illegal, and you need to make a formal complaint.
Yeah, and the way that you do that, it's actually pretty easy. There's a hotline, and it's a catchy one. I do enjoy this. 844-8-NO-ROBO. But you can also make a complaint online.
Yeah, right. So this robocall nonsense was happening while Josh Stein was in that neck-and-neck race yesterday.
And still is in that neck-and-neck race. It is too close to call. Right now, Democrat Josh Stein has a 10,000 vote lead over his challenger, Republican Jim O'Neill.
Right, even though it's 50-50, he's got that 10,000. We're talking to both of these men tonight at 5:30 to see what they think about this really tight race.
You know, as if COVID-19 didn't stress us out enough, now we're going through one of the closest and biggest elections in our lifetime. That's for sure. Now, if you've been feeling stressed or maybe a little anxious about this election, and who hasn't, then you may be going through something they call election burnout. I think a lot of us have some degree of that. Now, it's something that new research shows it's affecting a big chunk of Americans. Luckily, there are a few ways to deal with it. Take a look.
No matter what side somebody's on, I think people feel that very, very strongly. And so when you think there's so much at stake, it's only natural to worry about it.
Dr. David Palmer is a psychologist from the Clark Summit area and a professor at Marywood University.
2/3 of us right now, Ryan, report worrying about half the time.
And recent research from the American Psychological Association backs that up and then some. The group released stats and facts surrounding its Stress in America survey, which explored stress in relationship to the pandemic, the upcoming election, and several other factors. One big point from the research, nearly 70% of Americans say it's the election that's causing them a significant source of stress. And in so many places on social media, people aren't afraid to show how they're coping with it.
What happened?
So I have seen people online cleaning out their closets and their garage because they're so stressed over everything happening with the election. So what's your advice as a psychologist for those folks who are really having a tough time?
Try to not be plugged into it. Really, it's amazing just watching less TV, going less online, and doing things that either involve connecting with others or are fun or are intellectually engaging. Because we all have our limits, and when we push past them, it's like the gears are grinding, but we're still driving, and nothing good ever happens when we do that.
And one other tip to handle election burnout?
As much as possible, manifest 2 words: loving kindness. You can't go wrong manifesting loving kindness towards myself and others. It's the number one with a bullet, most powerful coping strategy.
That today is actually, believe it or not, this is crazy, National Stress Awareness Day. It's appropriate the day after the election, although it wasn't planned that way. But I asked you on Facebook, how do you unwind? And a lot of my people are here today because they have the same ideas that I do. Now, Soraya says, get off social media, read a good book. The sound of waves crashing onto the shore is the most soul healing for me. Also, a good hug from my kids. All good stuff there. Beth says, music is life's therapy. Preach to me, Beth. Duncan and Terry Bryan says, a good book, maybe a glass of Pinot Grigio. I ain't looking. Candace Lee Phillips says, sitting by the beach and listening to the waves crashing on the shore, the most relaxing thing for me. Kathy says, I spent about an hour on the lawnmower. I love being outside on nice days. You're welcome at my house with your lawnmower, Kathy, anytime. And Alicia says, candlelit bubble baths, walks, riding around in the passenger seat with absolutely no destination. Now, before we move on, because I'm sure a lot of you agree with that in studio, the ideas of unwinding, I found the dangling Chad. Just want to show so you can see. You see the little holes there. That was the problem because the machine wouldn't read them correctly. That's from Hillsborough County, which is where Tampa is located. That happened 20 years ago this Saturday, November 7th. I also found a stunning picture of me in 2nd grade, but we'll skip that. And there you go.
That is amazing. Okay, how does Tahisha de-stress? You know it involves Nutella, and you know it involves Netflix. So you know what I'm doing tonight.
Nutella and Netflix. I de-stress by looking at pictures of Eric Chilton in 2nd grade. I'm just kidding.
I'm just glad that you guys aren't bullying me because my name is Chad. But I do appreciate that you found that.
Never.
Thank you.
We wouldn't
Thank you.
do that.
I appreciate that. We'll be right back.
For other reasons, though, just not that.
Bye.
You know, our friends at Lawndale Baptist Church in Greensboro, we cover this almost every year. They always look forward to their Feeding the 5,000 event. It happens every year in November. This year is no different. Even a pandemic cannot stop their gesture of goodwill. It is a beautiful event. You need to check it out. I spoke with Pastor Joe to get the scoop on this.
Pastor Joe, you guys are at it again. You know, we've covered you for many years for this Feeding of the 5,000. Let's talk about the history of this event, and then we'll talk about how it differs this go around. But when did all this get started?
Got started back when we had that really bad recession around 2008. And during that time, we just knew there was a lot of need and thought, well, let's step forward and see if we can help people for Thanksgiving.
Well, and it's grown so much year after year, but this year, obviously, with restrictions in place in COVID and that type of thing, how is it different this year?
Well, because we don't want people handling a lot of our products and everything, we usually fill a box with a lot of different things. This year, we're doing a turkey, and there'll be some wonderful literature attached to the turkey, but we're doing 1,000 turkeys, and it's a drive-through. We're doing a drive-through this year, and so it'll be different, but we didn't want to not do it. We tried to find some creative way to get it done, and we believe with the drive-through, we'll have people that are masked, people that are able to go up to the car and get a turkey to a family they can put in the oven and have that great aroma just wafting through the house.
It's perfect for this time of the year. And your reaction from the people that benefit from this every year is just phenomenal. It really touches your heart, doesn't it?
It's fantastic. I will miss going from person to person in the line because I have so many friends out there that I've seen over the years, and so many that are employed but just underemployed or just need a little bit of help during this time. So we're blessed that we can still provide turkeys for those families and a great message that goes with the turkey about God's love. And we're thrilled and blessed to be able to do it. This is a loving, caring church that wants to just bless our community.
Pastor, thanks for taking time with us today. Good luck with this event this year.
So much fun. We cover it just about every year, and then they're just going to make this happen. You know, these days, the drive-through thing, I wish I could copyright the term drive-through. I'd be a millionaire these days.
Right. I am glad that they are able to do it, and this church is really just personifying, love thy neighbor as thyself. And in times like these, when, everyone's a little stressed, it's always easier when you're thinking about someone else and doing something nice for someone else.
And Eric, thank you so much for doing this story, because I think with so many things going on in our world right now, it can be hard to remember that we're coming up on the holidays and a lot of people are struggling. So help where you can. We'll be right back.